Welcome, my friends and enemies. Glad you are here. This one's a bit of a weird one because it's a short slash shorter, I should say, video than what I normally make. If you follow very much, typically 15 minutes is pretty short for me. I'm trying to keep this one under that if possible. Who knows? We'll find out. But normally I'm like in the 7 hour range, so it's a little weird for me. But I figured let's cover some news that I thought was interesting slash funny slash I found out more information since the previous time this happened. So, if you're not a video gamer, this might not make much sense, but you might know that Spider-Man's a popular character from Marvel, and Marvel doesn't even have rights to it. It's Sony, so that adds to it. Um, but things like the first Spider-Man, or I should say Spider-Man 1, which is not actually the first Spider-Man. That was like the what, Nintendo 64, Spider-Man 64 or something like that. I have it on PC, like CD, you remember discs, the little things. Um, I don't know how many Spider-Man games there are, but I think it's called The Amazing Spider-Man or something like that. But there's a lot of Spider-Man games, like a lot. And the Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2 are the most recent entries into the series of Spider-Man games released by modern Marvel. And in Spider-Man 1, there was a bit of a controversy where in Spider-Man 1, they had pride flags all over the place, like all over the place in New York City. Way more than there are actually in New York City. And a guy seemingly made a mod that removed all this excess content. And with all this excess content removed, you could play the game, like go through New York City and what you would assume to be normal in New York City, because it replaced the pride flags with American flags. So the concept we thought was is that he just went through and coded all the LGBTQ plus whatever flags and turned them all into American flags. Which you're thinking, okay, well, that's not a big deal. Well, it was a big deal to Nexus Mods owner, whatever the guy's name is. I can't even remember his. I don't really want to remember his name, but I'm really prepped. What can I say? But basically, the guy who runs Nexus Mods, don't bother him. Don't whatever. I mean, he might be a jerk, but don't bother him. Um, Bloody son of a goat, more like. But hey, um, basically, he decided that this was not okay, and this was transphobia, anti-gay, homophobic, pick it, name it, whatever, the X and the ists and the phobes, whatever, and basically banned the mod and banned the modder because he didn't ideologically agree with him. And I'm thinking, well, what would be wrong with having, just American flags as you're flying around? Well, you can't, quote unquote, censor um, LGBTQ plus whatever. Funny story on that in a second. So that all went by and made me really not like Nexus Mods that much. Like the software, the program, the modders themselves don't bother me. The guy who runs it, complete son of a goat. But anyway, so now that was Spider-Man 1. So now Spider-Man 2 comes out here recently. I think it was like a week maybe when it came out. I don't remember what day it was. Might have been Friday, might have been Tuesday, somewhere, something like that. So it comes out, and there's a bit of a controversy, if you will. And I just realized I presented the wrong screen. So basically, there's a new controversy, which actually adds to more information of the first one, which I kind of found out through, you guessed it, Reddit. I don't visit Reddit very often, but when things pop up like this, it catches my attention, mostly because I watch YouTubers that get into this kind of stuff, and it's interesting stuff. It's fun stuff sometimes. So basically, what happened is that Insomniac, the guys who make the developers of Spider-Man 2 and I believe also Spider-Man 1, um, basically came to this agreement to basically release a modified version of Spider-Man 2 in the Middle East. If you don't know, the Middle East is not very fond of homosexuality or LGBTQ anything. It's very puritanical, if you would say that way. And it's going to be kind of hard. I don't typically like talking about politics on here. It's not my thing to do here. This is more of a relaxing, let's laugh at the funny world. But unfortunately, there's bound to be some because of the comments. I'm going to go through some comments after this. It's going to happen. Ignore them if you would like to. I'm just going to read it, and if it has comments or if you see it on the screen, it is what it is. I don't have control over what people say. I'm not going to censor people. It's whatever. But basically, they made a modified version of Spider-Man 2. And in Spider-Man 2, the modified version, they deleted dialogue, removed LGBTQ plus whatever flags, and a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm going to show you this little image here from Reddit. So as you can see, there's people, I guess this is a streaming thing, I'm assuming. It is in what I assume is Arabic, but it could be literally anything. I don't know where in Arabia or where in the Middle East this is. Not familiar, not my cup of tea. But essentially, they deleted dialogue in certain scenes that you would normally hear in the American version. Well, then they also deleted flags, so like posters, flags, that kind of stuff. All of that was LGBTQ, and it's not anymore. And then we get a little bit more where it basically says this Twitter/X post to talk about Marvel Spider-Man 2, but it says Marvel Spider-Man 2 was classified after the publishing studio approved the modifications required by the General Authority for whatever. I would assume it's the Middle Eastern, Saudi Arabian, or Iran. Probably not Iranian. They don't really like anything technological. So I'd imagine Saudi Arabia. Whatever their Ministry for Truth group they have that goes through everything, whatever. But the game is suitable for ages 16 to up, whatever. So there is an actual version of this game that doesn't have any what people would consider cringe, woke, whatever you want to call it. Doesn't have the extra ideologue stuff. Now, I know very little about all of these little things, but apparently there's a lot of side quests and a lot of things not related to Spider-Man, not related to Peter Parker in terms of like how he would actually go about his normal everyday life when he's not Spider-Man. Like hooking, I guess, a gay friend up with another gay person and doing like that's not even Spider-Man stuff. Like it's like more of a Sims thing now. All of a sudden, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why would you put this content in here when it's not what people want to do? Not to mention they made Mary Jane not look so great. She's definitely not hot in my opinion. But basically, they took the actress that they used, I guess, mocap for, and they basically changed her face so she was attractive. And then they changed it so she's not attractive because you can't have attractive people. If I understand, they also screwed up Black Cat and a couple other things. Now, it makes me wonder if they kept Mary Jane the way she is in the Middle Eastern version, or if they changed it. Did they keep Black Cat that way? I don't know. I don't know how the Middle East takes sexy women, bodysuits, that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know. One would make me think that they want them more covered up, but it's hard for me to believe that Black Cat's going to go flying around with a burqa or something. So I don't really know. But yeah, so this happened, and let me get the next one. So basically, the Reddit posts kind of blew up, as you might imagine. And then you get further information, which I was not aware of. So this is going to be interesting. We'll jump into this. Spider-Man 2 Middle East version has removed LGBT dialogue, side missions, and all gender spectrum flags. Didn't see that coming. And then the first comments are like, so Insomniac can remove pride flags despite being pro-pride and gay on social media because the Middle East doesn't accept homosexuality. But if modders remove pride flags, somehow it is evil and has to be stopped. To be fair, Insomniac didn't tell people they couldn't remove stuff. Now, maybe they contacted Nexus Mods. I doubt it. But the Nexus Mod guy is the guy who did all this to begin with. And obviously somebody's like, it's okay when Muslims do it because the rallying cry of the left at this point. Well, that is what it is. Another person's like, if I recall correctly, the modder didn't remove the flags. They just changed the game localization internally to the Middle East, which did the trick. So in other words, when Spider-Man 1 came out, as well as Spider-Man 2, I'm assuming, the modder didn't remove the flags, like create a thing that patched every individual flag into an American flag. All he did, assuming as a he, basically was take it and, how do you say it? He just changed the localization. So it says like, oh, I'm in America, therefore this is the content that's allowed to be in the game. Instead of like, if you go to certain places in Europe, the game has to be slightly modified to be in those countries or those areas. But the Middle East is a bit more picky. There's also the same thing with like China. China has a lot of restrictions on their games. I don't think Japan does as much. I don't think South Korea has really any. They do have their preferences though. Like there will be things that they prefer to see in their games or whatever. But either way. So basically what happened is the mod that was made was basically changing the localization. That was it. It wasn't removing anything. It didn't do any of that type of stuff. But Nexus Mod Managers kind of was like, we're going to get political about this on a non-political game. So the same site that has a ton of like quality of life type mods where you can get better sound, better visuals, make darker, make it rain, more realistic immersion stuff. They have extra characters that you can have in. They have NPCs that people mod in for all different reasons. The one I'm the most familiar with is like Skyrim, because that's what I played for a long time. I still do play it every once in a while, but it's fun to mod. It's really fun to mod. There are other ones like the Fallout games, and I also like to dabble in like Mountain Blade 2, Bannerlord. But basically, they have a lot of mods. And some of these mods also include like nude mods. Like what you would consider as objectifying women, right? But he doesn't have a problem with that, which is weird. And it's like, if you have these kind of mods, if you have kind of sexual mods in certain ways, from what I understand, they don't do them there. They do them in other ones, like Lover's Lab or whatever it's called, where it's just more adult content. But a lot of these mods are having to escape to those adult content places because that's where they're not getting banned. But I don't know if this one ever went over there. I don't know if you guys remember, like when YouTube was going through like a major censorship campaign or whatever. There were like banning gun YouTubers and stuff like left and right. And a lot of them moved over to, weirdly enough, Pornhub. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. But Pornhub apparently doesn't restrict you in any shape or form as long as it's not like illegal in the country or whatever. And for some reason they did that. And that's where you can go find a bunch of stuff, content that you can't find on YouTube because for whatever reason, adult sites don't get as nitpicky about that kind of stuff. I guess you could argue that's gun porn. You know, seeing somebody clean their gun and pull it apart, put it back together, learn how to do it yourself. Gun porn, I guess. But that's kind of the similar situation. Where it's just like, it's odd where the site that should have this kind of stuff doesn't because of a political ideology, and then you go to a site that doesn't necessarily share any political ideology with these content creators, and then they're just like, yeah, do whatever you want. So it's also fun because like this one right here, waiting for game sites and Twitter activists to call out the dev studio for erasing diversity and representation in order to cater to a non-Western culture. In other words, they're not going to. They're like, oh wow, a game full of woke garbage, refused to keep it when it would hurt them financially. Whoever could see this coming? I'm shocked, I say. Just shocked. But yeah, and then they're like, can't they just not have so much pretentious LGBT crap in the first place? Why is it so important to put in the extra effort towards political content so divisive and annoying? Imagine the extra normal Spider-Man related side quests we could have gotten for all versions instead. And that was kind of my thing, is like, shouldn't a game about Spider-Man be about Spider-Man? I mean, yeah, you get relationships with like his schoolmates, classmates, but that's gonna be on a very low level. So most of it you'd get would be like his relationship with Mary Jane, Gwen Stacy, Black Cat, you know, what you'd expect from Spider-Man, like him running into the villains, Doc Ock or Rhino or whoever he runs into. I don't know who they put in the games. His interactions with Miles Morales, who is Miles Morales. Not to mention, you know, Peter Parker, Spider-Man. But yeah, like, and I agree with this one content. No, it was Spider-Man 64, best Spider-Man game. I will fight somebody over this. I will fight somebody. That was a fun game. But it was also this very direct game where it was like, it's about Spider-Man. He's fighting bad guys. It's like, what would happen if we made made shows like, I don't know, Daredevil that came out on Netflix, where they basically just have him go around beating people up, fighting local crime in a local area. There's no supernatural people. There's no outer space people. There's nothing. It's just this dude running around, bouncing off walls, socking people in the face, beating the snot out of them, getting beat up himself a lot, doing law in the day, beating people up at night, and he just is fighting crime for 3 seasons. It's shocking how that works. It doesn't have to be mass scale. He had only like Kingpin, I think, and Bullseye were the only 2 actual like villains, I think, in those. I mean, Elektra showed up, but I don't know if she's considered an ally or villain or both, whatever. But like even with the ninja groups and all that stuff, like it was very localized. It wasn't something insane, crazy big. Then you had Punisher, which is kind of like, well, we're fighting a company that's doing all these bad things or whatever. And he was also fighting off like trauma, whatever. I don't know how much I would believe that Frank Castle would have that much kind of trauma, because it's Frank Castle. He's familiar. He might not be all about it, but I think it was more for awareness for veterans and stuff, which I can appreciate. But I don't know if how much of that would actually be Frank Castle, because I've never seen a Frank Castle and Punisher comic or whatever, even the movies where they're just like, oh, let's talk about, you know, suicide. No, it was just like, somebody murdered my family, I'm gonna go screw somebody up. Like, don't screw with the new cheese. And if you know, you know. Great game. But yeah, so like, it's almost like if they just made a Spider-Man game where he goes around, teaches his seemingly apprentice Miles Morales about stuff, and has Miles Morales be his like sidekick, and they go fight bosses and do amazing things, save people, build positive relationships with people that you're actually going to be familiar with, like Mary Jane, Gwen Stacy, Aunt May, you know, those people, not all the other randos that you might see. Like, yeah, making friends with having a conversation with your friends is cool, but your friends at school aren't going to be the people that you're like swinging around with webs doing stuff. So, and then somebody's like, nice, can we get this option in the US too, please? But it's very much like, so they can remove all of this and it doesn't affect the gameplay or playthrough. It begs the question, if it's not important to the story or how the game plays, why was it included in the first place? Well, that's a question we're not going to get, because one could argue that both sides are having the religious duke out. Basically, the Middle East is like, our religion says X, or our culture says X. And then on the opposite side, it says our religion, aka the more woke, I guess, more, not really sure how else you call it, anything. The more leftist, extreme side, where they're basically focused so heavily on all this crap, and it's just like, but why? None of that matters. Like, just give me a game that's fun and entertaining. That's all I want. But because they have conflicting ideas, even though they consider themselves allies to the same people who are anti them, which doesn't make sense. Like, yes, we love the Middle East. They're great. They're so peaceful. They toss off homosexuals from roofs. I'm sorry, what? But, what it is. So, yeah, there's just, this kind of was annoying, and other people who have done better videos in this. Obviously, I'm not like super amazing or great. I'm just kind of direct and blunt and technical and all that jazz. So hopefully you guys weren't too annoyed or busybodied or whatever by me, but hopefully it was enjoyable. You want to see what my kid picked out for me? Check it out. I can't really turn my arm that well. It's pretty cool, right? Yeah, vampires. Kind of reminds me of The Count That Counts, the uncensored version, if you know what I'm talking about. If you know, you know. So, but anyway, yeah, that's really all I wanted to talk about. Is that, you know, it's silly, it's ridiculous. The fact that Nexus Mod behaved the way they behaved, the fact that is there a way? And maybe if anybody knows and you want to comment and below or whatever, and help somebody else find it or something. If you know how to get the localization set in the English version or the American version and somehow change that without getting the mod banned or whatever, or yourself banned for that matter, pop it down in the comments. Let everybody see it, like it, whatever. And if you guys enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, all the fun stuff. We've been growing pretty fast lately, and I definitely appreciate every single one of you. Hopefully we'll get a little bit bigger at some point. I'd like to do this kind of more full-time-ish. It'd be great if this was my full-time job and I could just make one of these videos like every couple days and do more in-depth videos, since I already have the Council of Light. Love those guys. They do great work, and they put up with me even if we don't always agree. And that's something you'll notice, is that if you watch our 7-hour videos, we don't always agree on everything, but it's still fun, and they're really fun to be around and enjoy it a lot. I also like to talk a lot, if you haven't noticed. And I can talk really fast if I wanted to, but if you never notice, if you don't watch the video, so how better watch the videos. Anyway, I'm going to intentionally slow down because I did that on purpose. But yes, hopefully you guys will keep an eye out for the next video. I know this was a bit of a weird one. This is only like 20 minutes or so. Thanks for hanging out. If you'd like to follow on Twitter/X now, you can follow at The Questioners, I believe. I don't know, I have to check. But check out The Questioners. I'll try to put a link or something down in the description if you'd like to follow us there. You can also, I follow, obviously, the Cool Cats, the Prophet of the Dragon, and White Cloaks, and, you know, Neurotic and all that fun stuff. But yeah, I'd love to see you guys around. I'd love to chat with you. We have a Discord, which I might as well just put that link in there as well. You guys can hang out. So thanks everybody for your time, and I appreciate you all greatly. And remember, walk in the light, my friends.